Assignment task variable to complete those assignment. Some sample task which I gave you. Please check with yeah, please check your audio. Yeah. So what about others? Any idea? Okay. Yep. I'll quickly give you an idea about while do while, and then we'll see the methods. So last class we have seen how to use if condition and for loop and for each, and with hands-on practice we have done and how to debug the code. So when it comes to programming, data types and logic writing is something important. You have to build your analytical skills on this, thinking and then writing the scripts based on the requirement. So that is something which you need to work on based on the syntax available over here. So if condition you cannot skip, it's a mandatory task. For each, for sure we need it. Apart from that, while is also important. When we don't have an whatever I have done it with for loop, I can do with while loop also. But we will use some scenarios only with while loop. Scenarios like until the element visible, we have to perform a click, or until that element visible, we have to search for that element. So those tasks and all we have to go with while loop only. So first we'll understand the syntax, how to use while loop. Then I'll start with methods. Okay. So already we have created a package. You can listen, that's enough. While loop, you can try to do a practice later. So right now you can listen. Let me try to create a file. So this, let me rename it. So in case if you want to rename, you can right click on the file and you can refactor and you can give rename. That's the option. Okay, now let me try to create a new package. Sorry, new class inside the same package loops, and I'll quickly give you an idea about while loop. Loop 3 demo .java automatically .java will be created. It's a class name. Class name and file name in Java should be same. If I change the class name, it will throw error. You have to change the file name or you have to change the class name. Okay. Now, inside the main method, whenever you trigger a class, it will check for the main method. If the main method is there, whatever you write within the main method, that gets executed. See, in while loop, I want to print something like 1 to 50. How to achieve that? Just understand the syntax right now. For while loop, initialization is right. If I want to print 1 to 20, I have to initialize the I value. While with the keyword, here you have to give Boolean operator, either true or false. Until the condition is true here, it will keep on running this section. Okay. Until the condition, whatever the condition you give, if it is true, it will keep on running this section. So for example, if I give I less than equal to 10, okay, simple logic what I'm writing. Initially, I will be 1 and I less than equal to 10, which means 1 less than equal to 10. It will be true. So it will run. After completing it, again, it will check this condition. It will be still 1 less than 2. So if I run this, it will end up in infinite loop right now. Let me print the statement. And once I first I less than equal to 10, true. So it will try to run this code. Whatever I'm running it inside this, it will get executed. So I is getting printed. Again, it will check the condition. So I is always 1 right now. We did not make any modification to I. So it will be always 1. So when it is always 1, it will end up in infinite loop. Remember that when it comes to while loop, you should think about the in point, in condition. So if you did not achieve the in condition, it will end up in infinite loop. Right now, when I run this program, let me run it in debug mode. Okay. Whereas in for loop, everything is going to be coming as a syntax, so you will remember it. In while loop, you have to think about it. I equal to 1, and it prints 1. Still, it will keep on checking that condition, I equal to 1. After completing the statement, it will try to check it again. So right now, if I run it, it will end up in infinite loop. This will never get stopped. Okay. So you have to be careful. At some point, this I should be 10, more than 10 at some point. So for that, what you can do in this cases, here we are just incrementing the I plus plus is what I'm doing. So whatever I did it with for loop, I have shown with the while loop. So I becomes 2 now, 2 less than equal to 10, 3 less than equal to 10. You can see the value here. Then it will go till 10 and I becomes 11 after this. 11 less than equal to 10, no. So it will come out of the loop. And while writing this, don't give semicolon here. That will also end up in infinite loop. This part. Okay. A simple syntax. Now, real-time scenarios like when it comes to some dynamic pages, we will be working on these pages and all. Okay. When it comes to dynamic pages, sometimes when you try to click on it, it will work at some point. This when you click on it, some point it will work, some point it will not work. Okay. Now what we will try to do is when we click on this checkbox or when we click on the sign in, it will try to navigate to a new page. For example, assume that the sign is not working. Then what we will try to do is we will keep clicking on the sign in by ignoring the error. Okay, until what condition? Until I get this header. Until I get this header or until I get this link, I will be keeping on clicking on it. So I will be giving a condition like until create an account is displayed. Until create an account is displayed, I will keep on clicking on sign in. So these kind of conditions we will be writing, whereas endpoint you will not be able to get it immediately. At some point it will try to reach. Until that I want to do the operation. So during that time and all, you will not know whether it comes after 10th click or 12th click, but at some point it is going to click. Okay. So during that time and all, we'll be using while loop. First it checks the condition, then it will run it. For example, if I give some 100 and all, it checks the condition. Whatever I write inside the while loop, either it should be true or false. If it is false, that's it. Nothing will happen. That's a do while. Okay. Sorry, while loop. Do while is something. Anyhow, it is not mandatory to learn over here because you rarely use do while. Without do while also, you can construct the same logic with while. Okay. So at least minimum once it will run the statements, whatever the statement you have given. Do while can be skippable right now, but I'll just give you an idea about the syntax. Whatever I did it with while loop, let me comment it. To comment it, you can use control / or you go to the source. Toggle command will be there, block command will be there. Those things you can add it. Let me just comment it. A single line command. Do / is nothing but single line command. Do. First it will do the operation, then it will check the condition. While condition value I less than equal to 10. Okay. Semicolon is mandatory for the syntax. Same thing, whatever I have done it over here, I can put it over in the statement also. Do while. Let me, whatever I did it in while loop is possible with do while, but only scenario where it differs. First, it will try to do the operation. You can see here, whatever the number I is going to contain, it will do the operation. Then only it will check for the condition. Okay, the output right now it's going to be same 1 and then 2, 2 less than equal to 10, 3 less than equal to 10. It will keep on doing the operation. Now 8, 9, and then you can see 10. And right now I is 11, 11 less than equal to 10. No, it's false. So it will come out of the loop. Okay. Output will be same. 1 to 10 is what the output I'm going to get right now. 1 to 10. Okay. Same thing only in this case. But when it get differs, for example, let me keep the IS 15. So now you can understand the difference between do while loop and while loop. In while loop, what happens exactly is it will check the condition first. 15 less than equal to 10. No, it's not possible. So it's false. So that's it. While loop will not get executed. This part will not get executed. Now in do while, first it will do the operation. Whatever it is, it will try to do this operation. Then it will check the condition. If it is matching, it will go for next iteration. Otherwise, it will come out of the do. So minimum once it's going to run. So do while we rarely use because if I want to run it for one time, I can keep it outside the while loop and I'll run it always. Then I'll go for while loop. So it's basically a replaceable one. While is important. When it comes to the automation process or development process, whatever it is, these logics, how to use if condition and how to use for loop, for each, while loop. So these are all important. Okay. Do while, anyhow you can skip it and you can directly do with while loop. In Java, do while is also possible. Is it clear for you? First, all of you got an idea about this, the basic idea about how to work with loops. Any doubts? We'll get into the oops concept, the methods. Let me quickly give you an idea about methods. For that, the increment and decrement operator, I'll quickly give you. Okay. So just listen here, all of you. Now you will get a confusion about I++ and ++I. It's a pre-increment, post-increment, and pre-decrement, post-decrement is there. Okay. Operator, which I mentioned in the document last week. Operator, we'll quickly discuss that. Okay. Now let me try to put this into the main method. Already I've discussed about this in for loop. Listen carefully. We did it day before in the last class. Simple for loop what I have here. I'm trying this for loop. What it happens in this for loop? It will try to run 1 to 10. Okay, it will just print 1 to 10. That's it. And I have given something like I++. I got the output 1 to 10. Okay, let me change it to, listen carefully, let me change it to ++I. And when I do ++I, I'm going to get the same output right now. You can see output is same. Now, what is the difference between giving I++ and ++I? Right now in for loop, if I do, it's giving me the same output. Either you give ++I or I++, it's going to do increment, I equal to I++. Now you need to understand the scenario where increment, post-increment and pre-increment happen. For example, let me take I equal to 0. I equal to 0. Now, if I do I plus plus here, it's a statement I've given I plus plus. In line number 8, I'm doing a I plus plus. Let me try to run this system.out.println. Now, first I will be initialized to 0. Then I plus plus means it's basically called I equal to I plus 1. That's the logic here. Now I'm going to get the output as 1. Already 0 plus 1. Now, instead of I plus plus, if I give plus plus I, it's going to do the same operation right now. I'm going to get the same output. So when you blindly just give I plus plus or plus plus I, it's going to do the operation increment I equal to I plus 1. So to understand pre-increment, post-increment, what you need to do is basically increment and decrement concept will be same. To understand pre-increment and post-increment, you have to store it somewhere. Either you have to store it or you can print it. Let me store it and show you. Let me declare int j equal to I plus plus. Now what will happen is it will do the increment. First it will do the increment. Okay. First it will do the increment. Increment means this operation, and then it will store. For example, increment in the sense I equal to I plus 1. So already I is 0, which will be incremented plus 1. So I becomes 1. First, it will do this operation. Increment will happen. I equal to I plus 1 will happen. Right now, I will be 1. And that 1 will get stored in J. Now, if you see the output, you can see the difference right now. Post increment and pre increment. Let's listen carefully. Right now, the output will be 1 and 1. First, it will increment, which means I equal to I plus 1. That's the operator we are using. And that value will store it in the J. So, which means I equal to 1, J equal to 1. Now, let me take a scenario. Let me comment it. Let me do post increment. So, right now, in this case, either you print it or you store it, you will understand the difference. Now, what will happen is first it will store the value and then increment will happen. Okay, so which means I equal to 0 is getting initialized. First, it will store that value. Okay, before increment, what will be the I value? Just before increment, what will be the I value? Whatever is initialized, that is the value, right? 0. So first, what will happen is 0 will be stored in J. 0 will be stored in J. Whatever the operation you are doing, that operation will be completed with the value what is initialized right now. So 0 will be stored in J. And then increment will happen. Increment will happen for I only. Okay, I equal to I plus 1. Now J will be 0, whereas I becomes 1. So now after executing, you can see the difference here. I got incremented. Anyhow, I got incremented. Now during the storage, when I store it or print it, you can understand it. During the execution, the previous value, what is present, that value will be used. After completing the operation, then increment will happen. Okay, now you can see, first it will store the value, which means I will be 0 will be stored in J. J equal to 0 is taken. Now I gets incremented after completing that. Now you can see the difference. So you have to understand the pre-increment, post-increment, that operator, you have to understand in which place you are using. Either you print it or store it, you will understand the difference. System.out.println I plus plus I you do, you will see the difference. Print or store you do, you will see the difference. So got some idea about pre-increment and post-increment. Anyhow, in our case, we do I plus plus or plus plus I just to increment the I value. We don't store it here and there. Okay, in case if you want to write a logic, then you can store. Or without this also, you will be able to do the automation like I equal to I plus 1, and then you will store it in the J. So that operation you can easily do it. All of you got an idea about this operator? Okay. No. So any doubts? Okay, we'll start working with the object. So listen carefully. See, first we started with the architecture of Java. We have seen the execution of Java with the basic notepad files itself, and then data types, primitive data types, predefined, non-predefined data types. Then conditional statement, if condition we have seen, switch is pending, switch we can cover directly at framework level. And then iterative statement, under iterative statement, for each, while, do while, those are really important. And then methods and variables. So right now, this is the basement for the OOPS concept. Understanding the methods, variable, you can easily understand the classes and object detail. So which I will be completing by today. So listen carefully. This is a very important topic. Okay. Now, okay, first, what we are planning to do is, these are the steps we are planning to do. So first, we'll understand how to create the method and how to call the method. Okay. The general definitions of methods is nothing but a building block of the program. Building block of the program. Method is nothing but a building block of the program. Methods or function we represent. Okay. Now methods are classified into static method, non-static method. With OOPS concept, it is classified as static and non-static. Now you have to understand the difference between static and non-static. Okay. So, but what we are planning to do is, first we will try to do how to create a method, how to call it is what we are planning to do. The reason why we go for method is reusability. Maintenance. Okay, these are all two major reasons for going with reusability and maintenance. We should not recreate the code in all the places. Instead of recreating the code in all the places, we have to start reusing it. Okay, how can we reuse some certain logics and all by creating a method? That's what we are planning to do. So method basically classified as static method, and we have some non-static method. And methods will be created inside the class. Hierarchy already I explained you. We'll have project, inside project package, inside class, inside package class, inside classes only methods will be there. You have to create a methods inside the classes, not outside the classes. Inside the classes, you can create the methods. Already we were working with method, that is a inbuilt method, static void main method. We will create our own methods right now. Let's do that one by one. For creating a method, you can create a method, a static method, a non-static method. Now what we are planning to do is, we are planning to understand how to create a method and call it. How to create static method and call it. How to create non-static method and call it. Okay. Now once this is completed, to understand the difference between static and non-static, right? To understand the difference between static and non-static, you can understand only through variable. Okay. In Selenium, you see lots of methods, like title method will be there, that will give you the title of the page. Get method will be there, which will try to navigate to the URL, and there will be a method for click. Okay, all these are methods created already. We are going to use those methods. Okay, that's what we will be understanding. Now, OOPS concept is something important, which is going to be a mandatory part. As I told you earlier, the basement of the OOPS concept, they relied on these concepts: methods, variable, classes, and object. Understanding it properly. So static method, non-static method, first what we are planning to do is, we are blindly going to create the method and call it. First we'll understand how to create and call it. Now through the variable only, you can understand the difference between static and non-static. So okay, it will take 1 hour to complete this. So listen carefully. First we'll understand how to create a method and call it. Let me show you. I'll just create a new package. So all of you listen here. I'll give you hands-on methods hands-on. You can do at the time. Right now you can listen. Okay. com.nsc.methods. I'm going to create a package called com.nsc.methods demo. Okay. Package. Now inside this package, I'm going to create a class. Class name, let me create it as a demo is the class name, and with main method I'm going to create the class name. What I gave is methods demo. Okay. Now already we have done few operations, like I ask you to calculate area of circle, and I ask you to calculate area of triangle and all. So let's understand that. Let me copy the statement, the same statement, which will try to do area of circle. Okay. What I'm trying to do here is radius initializing, and using the radius, I'm calculating area of circle. Now let me run this. If you listen here, I'm getting an output. Okay. Now this is logic we have written already. It's just an arithmetic operation, pi r square 3.14 into radius. Now if I have one more radius, assume that I have one more radius. I cannot redeclare it, so but I can change the value. Redeclare is not possible. Value I can change. Let me change the value to 20. I want to calculate the area of circle again for this 20. Okay. So same thing, declaration is not possible, but I can change the value. Now if you see here, inside a main method only, I'm trying to write all these logic. Okay, and then I'll try to run, I'll get the output. Output anyhow, I'm going to get it because it does this operation, store it, and we are printing. And again, I'm changing the value from 10 to 20 and then doing the operation and storing it in the same variable and printing it. So output I'm going to get. Okay. Suppose you get some 25 radius, you want to calculate area of circle for 25 radius and submit it. Now, if you keep on repeating this formula, assume that you are keep on recreating the formula, this particular logic in multiple places. You are doing in this class and in 2 more class you have to do. So in all the classes, you are recreating the logic, assume that you are recreating the same logic. Now, if you see here, if there is a change in formula, how many places we have to change right now? I've recreated the logic here, the formula logic I recreated in all the places. If there is a change in the formula, or I want to add an additionally 10 meter square or a 20 meter square, I wanted to add it on it, add on the calculated value. So how many places I have to modify that logic? So in this case, in how many places? 3 places I have to sit and I have to modify. Suppose if I design it, I know exactly where it comes and you will be doing it. Okay. Suppose you are designing a program like recreating lots of logic, and you are moving out of the company, a new person comes into the team, whereas he wants to modify the code. Now it will be quite difficult for him or her to identify the places wherever you have recreated it. Okay, and then it will bring up a lot of trouble. Okay, so recreation of code, recreating the same logic in multiple places is not at all recommended. It's first coding standard which you need to understand. If you are planning to recreate the logic in multiple places, you have to go for a method. You have to create a method, common method, and you have to use. Whether to go with static or non-static, we cannot decide right now because we did not know what is static and non-static. But we will know they have to create a method. First, we'll understand how to create a static method and call it. Okay. So right now, instead of recreating the formula in all the places, I can create a method. Okay, let me remove this for the time being. I can create a method. Methods will be created inside the class, not inside another method. Inside the class, you need to create. In any order, you can create. You can keep the main method first and below. After the main method, you can create your own method. It should be inside the class. Now, inside the class, you can create the method. Syntax goes like this. First, you have to give access modifier. Okay, we will see about this access modifier. Access modifier. There are lots of access modifier when it comes to Java. There is something called private, a default access modifier. When you don't give any access modifier, it will be considered as a default. And there is something called protected, and then public. Okay, so I'm not going to confuse with all these terms now. Okay, just keep one thing simple. For example, if I give a method as private, if I create a method, first thing what I need to do is I have to give the access modifier. Access modifier of the method. Access modifier is nothing but something like public I can give, or I can just leave it as it is. That is going to be default, or I can give protected, something like protected, or I can give private. Okay. Now you can easily understand what is private. If I give something as private, a method as private, that can be accessible within the current class. What is the current class name? The method, right? So that's the name. So only within that particular class you can access the method. Okay. As of now, when you give private, okay, you can give the access modifier to method as well as the variable. When you give it as private, it can be accessible within the class. And default, if you don't give anything, accessible within the package. Within the package, current package. What is a package name right now? If I don't give any access modifier, it's called default. What is a current package name? This is the current package name, com.nsc.methods.demo. Inside this package, you might have some in number of classes. In all these classes, you can access the method. That's the default when you don't give anything. Just get an idea about it. Practically, you'll see it. Public means I can access anywhere. Okay. Until DK8, you can access anywhere. DK 11 and all, you have some module level that anyhow you don't want to worry about it. If anything is public, you can access anywhere. Okay. Now let me create it as public so that we can access in different classes. Public access modifier you need to give. Then you have to give the return static keyword, then return type. As I told you, now we are going to create a static method. Let me keep it a static. If you give static, it will become a static method. If you remove static, it will become a non-static method. Okay. Now, static return type you need to give. For example, if we calculate area of circle, what data type we will be getting as an output? If you calculate area of circle, what data type we will be getting as an output? Double. Okay. So for this particular logic, the return type will be double. For example, if you are trying to get the title of the page, okay, that method will have some return type. What will be the return type of that method? If you are going to return a title like this, what data type? String, right? So based on that, you have to decide. Okay, anything can be a data type. As of now, I'm going to give it as double. Okay, return type will be double. And then access modifier, static keyword, return type, method name. Method name, you have to give it properly. It should be following lower camel case. You already mentioned it in the document. You always follow the standard. Methods will be following lower camel case, which means first word will be in lowercase, following word first letter will be in uppercase. The method name, give it properly. Don't give it as ABC and all. It's going to do area of circle calculation. So I am going to create the method as area of circle. Area in lowercase, O and C. I have given it in uppercase. Okay, now argument you need to provide. Okay, argument is something which is nothing but a prerequisite for running the area of circle. What is the requirement? What is the input required for calculating area of circle?
Radius.
Radius is required, right? Without that, you cannot do the operation. Okay, radius you can collect it. As of now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the radius as double. Okay, you can keep it as integer. If I want to pass a decimal value, I can keep it as double. Okay, or let me keep it as it's be double. Any argument you can give double data type and then the variable name. Let me keep the variable name as R. Okay. Now this is a method. This is how a method will be created. Let me take this and keep it over here. Static method. Now our method will be throwing error right now. If you see, I've just created a method. Now it is going to throw an error. This method will throw an error. Now let me hover on this error. You can see this method must return a result of type double. Result of type double. Okay. Now we have mentioned the method is going to return a double. Are we returning any double value? Or we giving any double value inside this method? Double or less than double? Are we giving anything? Until you give that return type, it will throw error. Okay. If you have a return type double, int, string, whatever it is, you have to return it. Return. You have to return the double. So for example, I can give 10.2. Now whenever whoever call the method, it will ask for the radius. Some double value you need to send or less than double you can send. Whatever the value you send, it will return 10.2. If I give 4, that is also possible because integer can be stored in double. You cannot return a string because in string cannot be stored in double. Return type is double. So which means you can return double or less than double. Okay. That's the logic here. But I don't want to just return a double value like 45.0 or those things. I want to calculate and return the detail. Okay. Now, logics you can write. Let me declare the double variable name area. Whatever I have declared inside this method, those are called local variable. These are called local variable. The R, area and all used only within this method. Now double area 3.14 into radius I have to give. So what is the variable name for going to hold the radius? So what is the variable name? R. Got it? We have given R here. Okay. Leave about this method. Don't think about this. We are preparing this method. It's an independent method. So R is required. So R we have to pass. That is what you need to do. You cannot access the value given in the bottom in the this method in a different method. This radius and all you cannot access. Whatever is accessible to this method is you have declared whatever you have declared inside this, only that, or you can declare something at class level that can be used, which we will be seeing R into R. That's the logic. Now you can see we are calculating 3.14 into R, which will calculate, and that value will be stored in the variable area. So that is what I'm going to return area. That's how method will be created. Okay, it's a static method. If I keep static, it is a static method. If I remove static, it will become a non-static method. Let's create of method. Method can be in any class basically. You can create a method in any class. Okay. Now let me remove all these things. Right now, the methods are created. Okay. Now it is a static or non-static method. If you want to know whether it is a static or non-static, just hover on the method. You can see yes option. You can see yes, or you can we only created. We know it's a static. You can see static keyword. Okay. So a method is created right now. Like this, I'll be creating lots of method. In this class, I'll be creating lot of method. Like area of triangle, I want to create is also possible. I can create it. Area of trapezium. Those methods will create it one by one. Okay. Now, got some idea about how to create the method. To create static, you have to give static. If you remove static, it will become a non-static. That's the difference. Now, what is static, what is non-static, we can understand with variable. That I'll tell you. With variable, we will be understanding. Now, all of you understand how to create a method. First of all, got some idea about it. Now, we have to make use of the created method. See, right now, when I run the script, this method will not run until what happens is in this class. In this class, do we have a main method? It will check. If there is a main method, only that main method will be triggered. You can see this part gets triggered. Now, if we don't have main method, you cannot run this class. Okay, you can see you are not allowed to run this class because this class is not going to have an entry point. The entry point will be decided by main method. Only this part is going to be executed. Whatever you write within this part will get executed. Now I'm going to call the method. I'm going to make use of this method. Call the static method. You have to use class name dot name. An argument. If it's an argument, you can pass the argument. So let's do that. What is the class name? This method is under which class? Methods demo is the class name.
Area of circle.
Area of circle is method name. Okay, method name is area of circle, and this method is inside the class methods demo. This is your class name. Okay, in order to call the static method, we have to use class name dot method name. Okay, let's call it quickly. Class name methods demo dot area of circle. That's the way we have to call the static method. You can see few more static details also given. If you call this main method, it will become an infinite loop. Basically, it will start main method, call the method again, so which is not required. We have to call a user defined method. These are all user defined method. Area of circle. Now, while calling the method, all of you listen here. It's a static method, so we call using the class name. Now, why we are calling using the class name, we'll see it. Don't worry about it. We'll see it in another 30 minutes. Now I call the method. While calling the method, you have to understand what is argument and return type. So this is very important for you, those who are new to automation or programming. Methods, in methods, you should know what is arguments and keyword, argument and return type. Arguments and return type, you have to concentrate in the method. Every method will have some argument and return type, it depends. So some methods will have argument, some methods will not have argument, some method will have return type, some method will not have return type. But you should know whether it has or not. So you need to understand. Now, area of circle. You can see that's a method name. Within the bracket, this section, this is called argument. Okay. Now, area of circle. What is the argument it's asking for? What data type it's asking as an argument? What data type it's asking as an argument? Double, right? So area of circle, I have to pass radius. So I can use 10 or 10.2 or stored value I can send. Let me keep it as 10. 10 point, let it be 10.2. I call the method. Now after calling the method, you should know the return type. What is the return type of this method? We only created. Now what is the return type we mentioned? When you hover on it, yeah, double is the return type. When you hover on it, you will get the return type. Okay. Now while calling also, you will be getting it. Okay. For example, area of a circle, you can see argument is also double. Return type after colon, you will see the return type. That is your return type double, and then the class name. Now you can see I passed the value 10.2 something, but return type you need to store it. If you don't store it, it's not going to give you the output, but it will execute. Right now, when I run the program, you can see the method gets executed, but output will be empty. Okay, we have to print it. Now to print it or do further operation, you need to understand the return type. The return type of the method is double. I have to store it first of all. Double, any variable name I can give, res. This radius, res, arg and all local to this method. Okay, and this r area and all local to this method. Now, whatever the value we calculated, that value will be sent. That's it. Okay, value is sent. That value we are storing it temporarily in res. And then if you want to print, you can print. Printing is not always the way. We will try to log it in the report. Okay. Now, when I run the program, it will trigger the main method. In main method, we are calling area of circle. From the area of circle, it will try to do the operation. Let me try to debug the code. So initially, during the debug, I already told you terminate, resume, we understood. Step into and step over. We have to understand the difference between step into and step over. Let me put a breakpoint here. Okay, and then run it in a debug mode. Whatever happen, it will try to get into the main method. If you have some 100 methods, not an issue. It will start with the main method. If you don't have main method, you cannot run the class. Now it comes to line number 15. I'm going to give step over. Again, I'm going to give step over. You can see step over in the sense it will go to line number 18. From line number 17, it will execute and go to line number 18. That is your step over. Okay. Now it ran the method and got the output. You can see here. And that output I'm going to print. Step over, if I do, it will just from 15, it will go to 17. From 17, it will go to 18. Just execute this code and go to the next line. That's your step over. Now I want to know what is happening inside this method. A println we did not create, so we did not check, but this method we only created. I want to know what is happening with inside this method. During that time, you can do step into. Step into means it will show you each and every step. Right now I'm in line number 15. Let me go to line number 17. Right now I'm in line number 17. Now I want to go inside the method and see what is happening. Then you can do step into. Got it? If you do step over, it will run that method and go for line number 18. If you do step into, it will go inside the method. You can see it just gets into the method. R is right now, R is holding 10.2, the value 10.2. It is going to calculate 3.14 into 10.2, 10.2. That value is stored in the area. Now that value is sent, return that value 326. That value is getting returned and that returned value we are storing it in the res, the variable. That is what we are trying to print. Understood? What is step into, step over? In the debug process, what is step into, step over? Is it clear for you? Let me know if we want me to repeat it. Now, whenever I wanted to calculate, whenever I wanted to calculate area of a circle, what I'll do is I'll call this method. For example, I wanted to calculate area of circle for the value 100, then I can do area of circle 100. I can pass. Any of this method will return the output. You have to directly print it, system.out.println, and you can give this, or you can store it and get the output. Already there's a variable initialized with double. I'll use the same variable, store it and print it. Okay, and let me try to debug the code. Now, once we understand the script, we will not debug. Initially, we'll try to debug. If I want to go inside the method, I can do step into. Already I've done the debugging, so I'll go for step over for this, and this value I'll go for step into. I'm in line number 20. In line number 20, step into means take you inside that method. 100. Calculate the value. That value will be sent. Whatever the value is sent, that I'm storing temporarily in res, and then printing it. Then once you come out of the method, those variable and all will be destroyed. Res, radius, everything will be destroyed. Okay, this is the output. Now, in case if there is a change in the formula, how many places I have to change? If there is a change in the formula, how many places we have to change? Okay, only in that method. Okay, you have to find where the method is and you have to change the logic inside the method. You can see if I change the logic inside the method, remaining portion I have just given RQ, and if I run, you can see all the methods will be responding based on that. Okay, so that's how we have to create a reusable code. Now you will have to create lots of methods. Not only one method will bring up a solution. You have to create a lot of methods. If I want to add +10, I just do here +10. That's it, and I'll run it. Okay, you can see I just run it +10. So whatever the logic I want to modify, once you get a clear idea, you can modify it and keep it. I'll create one more method. I gave you that scenario for you to practice. Area of a triangle, I asked you to do base height, calculate area of triangle. The formula will be like base into height by 2. Okay, let's take everything as a double so that we will not get into a conflict when we do division. Okay, let me create the method. Here I'll try to create the method. Public static return type, let's be double area of triangle. And in order to calculate area of triangle, what are the input required? Area of triangle, let's take. This is the formula, base into height by 2. Okay, what are the input required for calculating area of triangle? Is that clear for you? Base into height, 2 argument is required. So those argument you can give double base, double height. Okay, you cannot give the keywords as a variable name. Keywords like int, okay, and then double, class, those are all keywords. Keywords you cannot give it as a variable name. Okay. Height I am going to give. Now calculating. So what is the formula for calculating this? Base into height by 2. Okay. So you don't want to store it also. Store it and return the value. We can directly do return. Okay. I know the logic. It's going to be base. Already it's double only. So we will be getting the output as double. Base into height by 2. That's the logic. Semicolon. No need to store. Just you can do a return. Return is not going to print anything. It will just return the output. Understood how to create this method? Okay. Like this, we will create lots of method. Okay, and then we'll keep it. Selenium team designed lots of method for us, and we will be using. For example, let me show you some class Selenium. Okay, there is a class called by. There's a class called by. You can see class called by. This class is having lots of static methods. You can see static methods, static. These are all static methods. Okay, and return type is there, that is by, which we will discuss. And you can see the method name is id, link text, name, partial link text, tag name, export. These are all static method. Okay, which comes under the class name by. How do you call this method? For example, let's take a method name as id. Okay, and you have to pass the string. Method name is id. Class name is by. How will you call that method? By.id. Okay, class name will be having upper camel case, so b will be in uppercase. And yeah, once you see the code, you will come to know like this. See you all the methods we will try to call. Okay, and if it is a non-static method, we have to create an object and call it. Let's understand that quickly. So that's how Selenium is already designed the code. Only we have to use that code. You can see by class name, methods name are going to be available. We will discuss going through the Java doc only. We'll have to get into that. Okay. Now let me call this method. How do you call this method? We have to use the class name. Class name is methods demo. Let me do methods demo dot area of triangle. You can see two static method. I wanted to call this method. Let me give 10 comma 20, like 25 comma 1. I'll give output should be 12.5. Okay. This will return some output. That output I'll try to store and print it. System.out.println result. So here I'm using 10.2, which will be 3.14 into 10.2 into 10.2, 3.14 into 100 into 100. This will be 25 into 1 by 2. That will be output. 12.5. We are getting some output over here. Now, is it clear for you? How do you create the methods? Now, there are some standards for creating the class methods and all. We should not dump all the code inside one particular class. All the code inside one particular class. What we need to do is we have to create a class separately. For example, there is one principle. Okay, we will be working on the based on that principle. There is a principle called solid principle. If you, these are all some standards which we have to follow from the beginning. If you follow the standard, it will be easy for you to understand. Solid principle. Okay, in solid principle you can see single responsibility principle. Let me go inside some document and show you. No need to work on all these things, just get an idea about it. Okay, single responsibility principle. These are all some standards design patterns given by that oops it was done during the discussion, the initial implementation of the oops, how to use the code efficiently. For that, some standard is designed. So one of the principle is solid principles. In solid principles, you'll have solid. S stands for single responsibility principle. Open close, where you have to work on interface and all. List curve, dependency inversion. So all these process we'll be working on. At that time, I'll explain about that. In that, there is one of the principle called single responsibility principle. According to this, you can see the definition here. A class should have only one reason to change. Okay, so which means you should create a class and keep the code independently. For example, I wanted to create a class for doing the addition, subtraction, multiplication. In the same class, you should not keep the method like area of triangle, area of rectangle. Or suppose I wanted to create a method like volume of cuboid, volume of cube. So that is related to volume. This is related to area, right? So instead of dumping all the code inside one class like this, what we will do is we'll create a separate class. For area, I'll be creating one class. For volume, I'll be creating one class. For calculator, I'll be creating one class. So we should be able to segregate the code. And remember that if there is a change in the area, then you can disturb that class. Okay, if there is a change in the volume, then you should disturb the class, that particular class. A class should have only one reason to change. This is one of the principle. Without understanding the principle also, you will be able to work on it. Okay? It's not like a mandatory concepts to know. Just make a note of it. Okay? The standard we will be following. The class should have only one reason to change. Okay. Selenium team also designed lots of classes for Chrome browser. For working with Chrome browser, they have Chrome driver. That's the class. For working with Firefox browser, they have a class called Firefox driver. They don't dump into one class called browser. They have a individual browser class for working with each browser, so that in case of any change or any issues with Chrome, they can disturb only the Chrome browser driver. No need to disturb the Firefox driver and all. That's how it will be designed. The same pattern is what we are planning to do right now. I have a formula related to area. Instead of keeping in this class, I'm going to create one new class. Let me create a new class inside the same package. Just listen here. Under com.nsc.methods.demo, I'm going to create a class name called area. And then no main method. I'm not going to create any main method. Then click on finish. This class, we cannot run it. This class, you cannot trigger it. Okay, the purpose of this class is not to trigger. This will contain some reusable code. So whatever the method I had, I'm going to cut it. Cut and then paste it inside the class. Okay. How many methods is there in this class? You will have to create lots of methods like area of square. Those tasks I'll tell you what you need to do. So I'm going to keep all these methods inside this area of square, area of rectangle, all these things. You can create it and keep it inside this class. And in case of change in the formula, you can disturb this class area. Okay. Now I removed and added inside the area class. Now once I keep that, remove that method from this class and keep it in the area class, you can see all these code are going to throw error. Okay, if you see the error, just read out the error properly, all of you. The method area of circle is undefined for the type. Every class is basically a type. String is a class. Okay, we call that as a type, like data type. This is also kind of type only, which we will be discussing about it. It tells the method is not available inside the class methods demo. Okay, now how do you call the static method? To call the static method, we use the class name. Okay, let's understand this. Okay, so method name is area of circle. Okay, how to call this method? It's a static method. How do you call the static method? What is the current class name? Okay, area. So class name is area. So you will have lots of class like this. Inside the class, static methods will be there. To call the static methods, correct. I have to fix this issue. So the method is basically coming from the area class. So if I do area dot, I will be able to access the method area of circle. Radius, you can pass any value, stored value also you can pass. So right now, area dot. Now, when I run the program, I'm going to get the same output and all. It's not going to be changed. While calling it, you can see when I run this code, it will come to this point. If I want to go inside the method, step into or step over. Step over means it will run it and go to line number 11. Step into will take you inside the method. You can see now R is 10.2. Calculate the value, return that value. We are storing it here and then we are printing it. Okay. Let me click on step over. Step over. It will run the code, print it. Got it? If there is no main method, you cannot trigger it. This class, you cannot trigger it. Okay. Now you understand the purpose of a class without main method. Also, one of the thing is you can create n number of classes will be there. Not all the classes will not have main method. Only the class which we try to run, that class will have the main method. From this class, you can access all these methods. First, is it clear for you? Calling the method, static method. Got it? Let me make this access modifier as private. What happens if we change it to private? Access modifier as private for area of circle method. So accessible within the class. What is the class area? Within this class only you can access that method. You cannot access outside the class. Now you can see it will throw error. You can see the error also. Type area is not visible. Not visible means not accessible basically. It's not visible because of the access modifier. Got it? Just understand the private. That's enough. Well, as of now, we will try to do with only public. All of you got an idea about this? Remaining methods, I'll tell you what are the methods you need to create. You can create it. There will be a method in Selenium. Okay, there will be a method in Selenium for closing the browser. Once the browser is closed, once the browser is closed, for database close, browser close and all, you can see we will be discussing about this interface basically. You can see methods is there, and return type you can see some method return string. This is your return type. Okay, and some method it's returning string. String means it will return a string double quotes. You have to store it. You can see something like void. There's a method like quit which will close the browser, and return type is void. Okay, you have to understand what is the return type void. We know a return type int, double, float, string, all these you know. Okay, for example, listen carefully. Public, and I want to return my name. If I want to return my name, what should be the return type?
String.
String, right? So I'll just do static string. String is a class, so yes should be in uppercase. And get or name. Okay, just a method I'm going to create sample method, and this method will return a string. So return, you can directly store it and send it, or you can directly send return within double quotes. I'm going to give my finish. So I've just created a method, and it's a static method. To call the static method, use the class name and call it. That is going to be same. Don't worry about the return type and all. If you see static keyword for a method will have something like a bracket. This method is not going to have any argument here. Okay, but you have to provide this bracket, no argument right now. Who this is a public, so anyone can call the method from any class. I can call this method. To call this, to address this method, I have to use class name. The class name is area. Let me go over here and try to call it area dot. You can see all the static method will be shown. Area of circle, area of triangle, get author name. And do we have any argument here? You can see argument is empty, so no need to provide the argument. What is the return type here? Is that clear for you? After colon, you see the return type. You should know the difference between argument and return type. You don't got an idea about what is argument, what is return type. After colon, you will be able to see the return type. This is your return type. The method returns output. Okay. Whatever comes in a bracket, that's an argument. Now get author name, no argument. Return type is string. Just if you do this, it's not going to print anything. If you want to print it, you have to store it somewhere and print it, or you can directly do system.out.println area.get author name you can do. Right now, I'm just storing it system.out.println. I'll put a breakpoint here. Let me debug the script. Click on resume. It will it is executed till line number 17. It completed. Line number 20. We are in line number 20. Let me do step into. It comes inside the method. This method is returning a string. That string I'm storing it somewhere here locally within this method under the name. You can see the value. If I want to print, I can print it. That's it. Got it? The return type with string. Okay. Now I wanted to create some method. That method itself want to print something. Okay, I want to print the purpose of the class description I want to do. So static. If you listen carefully, I'm going to give the return type as void. Okay. Class description. Okay, the purpose of this class. Now you can see the return type what I mentioned here is void. Bracket and all you need to give here. It starts here, ends here, starts here, ends here. All these are independent method. Starts here, ends here, starts here, ends here. Class. This is a class. Now the return type is void. Void means you don't want to return anything. No need to return anything. If it is void, you can't store this method anywhere. You can just call the method. Whatever the logic you write, it will try to execute it. For example, close, quit, which will close the browser. To close the browser, there is a method called quit. There's a method called quit. The purpose of this method is to close the browser. After closing the browser, it is not going to return anything. That's it. The logic will be writing closing the browser. Database connectivity and all, if you want to close, you will have this void data type, void return type. Okay. Void means that method is not going to return anything. Here string, so you have to return a string, otherwise it will throw a double. So you have to return a double value or less than double. Here also the same thing. But here return type is void, which means you don't want to return anything. Got it? First of all, void, meaning of void. Let me go over here. How to call this method? It's a static or non-static method. That is the only thing you need to check. Return type and all you can worry when you call it. Okay. Now, first you have to address that method. So how to call this method? Static or non-static? Static. How come it's a non-static method? Do you see static keyword here? It's a static method, right? I will create it. Okay. Static method with the return type as void. That's it. The return type is not going to decide anything. The keyword is its static keyword is there. How will you call the static method? How do you call this method if you want to call this method? Area dot area is a class name. A should be in uppercase. Okay. I go to this particular class and I'll do that. Area dot. Okay. You can see all the static method is shown. Area of circle, triangle, get author name, like the method. Class description is there. What is the return type? For class description, what is the return type? Argument is empty, no argument. What is the return type here? Void, right? So void means you can call the method. You cannot store it anywhere. You cannot store it anywhere like this. It will throw error. Okay, this method is going to return void. Cannot convert void to int. Okay, we call system.out.println. Println is a method. Let me go inside the method and show you. This is the method. Okay. Now you can see public. Okay, it's a non-static method. What is the return type here? Void. Do you see the println method? See, we call lots of println method. Are we storing this method anywhere? Something like this. In a equal to somewhere are we storing this method println? The duty of this method is to just print it. That's it. So it's going to return the output. The output is basically empty, void. Understood? Println method we call. The duty of this method is to just print the statement what we give in the console. That's it. And it is not going to return anything. So return type is void. That is the logic here. Okay. So this method is if you want to print anything, you can print it. Okay. Any of that. Understand the difference between print and return. Okay, print. If you do println, it will print it in the console. That's it. The duty of println method is to print it in the console. Wherever you give print, here if you add print, it will print. Here if you add print, it will print. Here if you add print, it will print. That's it. Return type means that method will send out. That method will return the output. That output you have to store it. So this class contains all area related formula. That is the printing statement which I wanted to. So when I call this method class description, I cannot store it anywhere. You cannot store it anywhere. The duty of this method is to just run that method. That's it. When I run it, I have written some print statement which will be printed. Okay. So all of you got an idea about how to create a method and give the argument and return type. You can create a method without argument, without return type, something like this. Okay, without argument with the return type, with argument with return type, and the combination of all these things you can create. Got it? First of all, everyone, method with the return type, without return type, with the return type, without argument. So those combinations, any of that, based on the business scenario only we'll be creating, we'll do that. Okay, first, is it clear for you? First, all these are clear for you. Creating a method and calling it. Any doubts with this? Shall we move on with the next step? Same way, what we are planning to do is we'll understand how to call the non-static method. And after finishing it, immediately what we will do is we'll try to, so we'll understand how to call the non-static method. Once that is done, we'll try to understand the difference between static and non-static. So that anyhow I'll be able to explain it today. So listen carefully. Now let me go to this class area, and then in this class I'm going to remove static keyword for area of triangle. Let me remove static keyword. Now if I remove static keyword, it will become a non-static method. Got it? That's how you have to create a non-static method. The logic will be same. Okay, creation and all. Just if you keep static, it is static method. If you don't keep static, it will become a non-static method. So if you got it how to create a non-static method. So creation, it's going to be simple. Just remove the static keyword. It will become a non-static method. So go to this. Let me go to this method, and you can see the error. Just notice down the error properly. I am doing area of triangle. Now you can see the error. Cannot make a static reference to a non-static method. Method name is area of triangle. From the type area. So it says it's a non-static method. Okay, so we cannot make a static reference, which means a static reference in the sense using the class name. It's telling it's a non-static method. So, non-static method, if you want to call the non-static method, you have to first create an object. Okay. So create an object in the sense we need to allocate the memory. See, for example, if you listen carefully, just listen for with a variable, you can easily understand that because memory will be allocated for variable. For right now, you can understand how to call the method. That's enough. With variable, you can understand the difference. Then using object reference dot method name. That's how you have to call the non-static method. We have already created objects, lots of objects we have created. These are all objects we have created for integer array, double array, string array. We have created the objects. Now what we are planning to do is we are planning to create an object for the class area. So right now, in order to call the non-static method, you need to create an object. While creating an object, you will be using new keyword that will allocate the memory. So what happens when you click on this run? All the static methods will be loaded in memory. Automatically it gets loaded. To address the static method, we use the class name. For non-static method, we have to allocate in memory by creating the object. How many non-static methods we have here in this class? Only one non-static method. Okay. Static method is 3 static method, one non-static method is there. You can have some 100 non-static method also, that's fine. Just one object is enough to call those methods. To call the non-static method, you need to create an object. Let me do that over here. Listen carefully. Object creation is what we are planning to do. First, you need to do declaration and then instantiation, new keyword, which will allocate the memory. Then initialization. Initialization you cannot understand right now. Let me tell you right now. So these three things we need to do: declaration, instantiation, initialization. We have to create a memory for the class area. So a new area. This part is nothing but the instantiation. This part is nothing but the initialization. All the non-static variable will be loaded. As of now, there is no non-static variable. So just creating an object. That object, see, this is an object for the class area. This is an object for the class or type area, like data type. Integer array, you create an object of integer array. You can see we created an object of integer array. We are storing it in integer array. We create an object for double array. We are storing it in double array. Right now, the object is created for which class? This is how object is created. New initialization. This part is instantiation. This part is initialization. That I need to store it somewhere. But Java is a typed language, right? So I have to store it. I have to provide the data type. Listen carefully. Now, object is created for what type, what class we have created the object. For which class we created this object. Area. Okay. So you have to store it in the area class only, parent of area class. It is, you cannot store this in integer. It's not an integer data type. You cannot store it in string. There is no connectivity between string class and area class. It's a object of area class. So you have to store it in the respective class, parent of this class. We don't have any parent right now. So this is how object will be created. This part is nothing but the declaration. This part is nothing but the declaration. Memory needs to be created. That is nothing but instantiation. Whenever you want to create an object, you have to use new keyword that will allocate a memory in your RAM. Now this part is nothing but initialization. Initialization you can understand basically the object detail itself you can understand with the help of variable. We will do it right now. Okay. Now using this is how object should be created. Object is created. That's how object is created. Now after creating the object, using the object reference, we are storing the object under which variable? What is the variable name I have given? Obj. So using that only, you need to call the non-static method. Okay. You can see obj dot all the non-static method will be shown. You can see lot of methods shown over here. Along with area of triangle, you see methods like hash code. Area of circle is static methods. You can directly use class name. Equal, class, string, notify, all these are coming from a class called object. Okay. While creating a class, you might have noticed super class will be there, which is nothing but object, which is always going to be a parent. Okay, which we will discuss later. Right now, you can see obj dot area of triangle. Return type is double. We are already storing it in double, coming from the area class. This is how you have to call the non-static method. Okay. Whatever the class it comes in there, you have to create an object. Then using that object reference, you need to call that method. You can create a, let me do one thing. Okay, let me run this code. There won't be any change in the output. Output is always going to be same. In this case, either it is non-static or static, it's going to work because the logic what we have written is to just calculate some output value we are passing. Based on that we are calculating. Okay. While calling it, we have to use the object reference. Let me create one more non-static method. Let's do public void print area of square. I'll give. Okay, this method will try to accept some input and then print it. Let me leave it as it's not going to return anything. Return type is void, and it's a static or non-static method. Okay, so non-static. To call this method, object is required. Already we have an object. Okay, object is stored under obj. So you can do obj dot. You can see here a print area of square. So you can call the method. Okay. So using the object reference, you can call the method. So one object is enough to call all the methods. Okay, let me create an object right now. When you create an object, a memory will be allocated. For example, it's very simple. Static, non-static is there. Static automatically gets allocated. When you click on run, automatically static is loaded. You don't want to worry about it. To call it, you can address that class name and call it static method. For non-static method, we need to allocate the memory. That's what we are doing it here. Let me run this. We are allocating a memory for non-static method. We are creating an object. While creating an object, all the non-static variable methods will be loaded. Some address will be there. We will discuss about this. Okay. Now, using that object reference, we can call all the non-static methods. Output is given. Go inside the method. No, nothing is done in this method. Just running that method and moving on. Okay. Now, a basic idea about how to call the static method and how to call the non-static method. All of you got it. This basic idea. Leave about static and non-static concept. Just how to call the static method, how to call the non-static method is clear for everyone. So if I give you a class with static and non-static, you should be able to call it. If I give you a class with some static method, non-static method, by going through the class, you should be able to understand it's a static or non-static. If it is a static, use class name dot. If it is a non-static, create an object and you need to call. With method, you can understand this till whatever we have done, only that you can understand with method. What is object, what is static, non-static, you can understand with variable. So now we will discuss about variable. So listen carefully. With variable, you can easily understand the difference between static and non-static. If you understand the difference between static and non-static, that is going to be the concept of classes and object. Like object is nothing but an instance of a class. You will have some definitions, right? Mental definitions. Those definitions you will be able to understand. Shall we move on to variable? With variable, you can understand. It's like continuation only. Methods you need to do it. Basic idea you should have. With this idea, you can work with Selenium. Selenium automation can be covered by understanding how to call the static method, how to call the non-static method. With this itself, you can work with Selenium. But to know more about the OOPS concept, we have to clearly understand the object detail, this object detail. That's what I'm going to display right now. So listen carefully. If you have any doubts on this, please let me know. I'm going to move on with the variable. With variable, you can better understand static and non-static concepts. All good as of now. Let's understand this. Okay. So this part is going to be important. You can rewatch the video also in case if there is a confusion on this part, like a variable part. Just create a new package. Dot nsc dot variable demo. Okay. Now inside this, I'll create one new class. Class variable demo. I'm going to create a class variable demo main method. We have created lots of variable. The variables are classified into static variable, non-static variable. Static variable, or it is called a class variable. We have to understand the meaning of class variable. Non-static variable, or it is called instance variable. Instance is nothing but object what we created. Suppose if I create 5 object, we will tell it as a 5 instance. If I create 10 object, I'll be telling it as 10 instance. Okay. The general definition of classes and object, you can understand this general definition. Class. A class is nothing but a template, or we call it as blueprint, or we just name it as type. Object is nothing but an instance of class. The meaning is what we need to understand. Let's understand it slowly. Let me try to do the variable discussion. Static variable, non-static variable, and local variable is there. Local variable is something which we declare within the method. Already we have declared lots of variable within the method. The area or all these are local variable. And how many local variable here? Base is a local variable, height is a local variable, which can be accessible only within the method. You cannot give access modifier to local variable. Here we don't have any local variable, no local variable. And for this method, you have some args local variable, radius is a local variable, res is a local variable, string name, this is a local variable. Okay, local variable, something which you create within the method, no access modifier. Apart from that, at class level, you can create a static variable or non-static variable. Same thing, what we are planning to do is we are planning to understand let me quickly show you that we are planning to understand static variable, non-static variable. Both are same only, like the way we call the static method and static variable, it will be same. Non-static variable, the way we call it's going to be same. Let me first declare it. The variable will be declared at class level. Inside the class, it will be declared at class level itself. It will be declared. If you declare within the method, then it will become a local variable. Here, I'm going to give public static int a. Yes, I'll give the variable name. I'm going to give it as a. Yes. A, yes, something like static you can refer. Any variable name you can give. I'm going to initialize with 100. This is your static variable. And this is what is actually called as static variable or class variable. Now, public without static keyword, I'm going to do one variable. That is your non-static variable. That also I'll initialize with a. This is basically called non-static variable or instance variable. Okay. The declaration is clear for you. Static and non-static. We have created it. Okay. To call it, you have to use the same thing. How do you call the static method? Static method, how do you call? Class name dot method name. The same way you have to call the static variable. So what is the class name right now? Windows system.out.println. The class name right now is variable demo. Correct. So that is the class name, variable demo. Dot. If I do, it will give me all the static related component. Static variable AS is there. No method, so just AS. You can see ANS is not accessible. It will throw error. Same error. Non-static reference is required. So I can use AS, which is a static variable. Non-static method, what do you need to do in order to call non-static method? What is required?
First, we have to create object.
Object, and then we need to call. Correct? Yeah, same. So for non-static variable also, it's going to be the same thing. So let me create an object. When you create an object, then only the memory gets allocated. Let me create an object. Now only memory will be getting allocated. Now using the object reference, you need to call the non-static method or variable. Let me call it. Let me run it. I'm going to get the output. So listen carefully. I'm going to enter into debug mode. The first thing what happens is I'll add a breakpoint in all these lines. All of you listen carefully. Difference between static and non-static. The first thing, when you click on run as Java application, or when you click on debug, first in your RAM, all the static fields will be loaded in memory. All the static fields will be loaded in memory. Okay, right now let me show you how many static variable we have here. How many static variable we have? Only one static variable is there. If I have some 100 static variable also, all will be loaded in memory. Before reaching the main method, all the static variable will be loaded in memory. For example, in your RAM, there will be a section for loading your static variable. So just keep the circle as a static memory. Okay. Static memory, SM, I'll give static memory. Inside the static memory, this will be addressed by the class name. The class name is nothing but variable demo. All the static variable will be loaded in this section. So let me keep it as AS. AS equal to the value right now is 10. Okay. Whether you use it or not, that is not a matter over here. Whether you use it or not, when you run it, automatically the static variable will be loaded in memory. Now let me run in a debug mode. Listen carefully. See, it comes to line number 4. Debug, with debug, you can understand which are the step getting executed. With this itself, you can learn. Okay. Now you can see we are in line number 4. Let me go for the next step. You can see it will not go for line number 5. It will directly get into the main method. Let me run it again. First, it will come to the line number 4. It is getting loaded. Static variable is getting loaded. Once that is loaded, is it going to line number 5? Check it. I'll debug it again. Is it going to line number 5? No, right? Yeah, you can see it runs line number 4. That's it. And then it is directly getting into the main method. Now, if you see, this AS will be available in memory. Okay. AS is available in memory. It's already loaded. What is the size of integer? Yeah, some 32-bit, which I told you, no? So right now, when you run the program, this AS equal to 10 will be loaded, which means 32-bit will be occupied in your RAM. So under static memory, AS equal to 10 is going to be loaded. Now, since it is already available in memory, it's already loaded, we can address that using the class name. Okay. Now, when non-static field will be loaded, when the non-static variable will be loaded, whenever you create an object, when you give a new keyword, a new memory will be created. Right now, if you see here, in line number 13 only, I'm creating an object. So first thing what happens is a new memory will be created. And it will be some random location. And this location is pointed by which variable right now? Which variable is pointing that location?
OBJ.
OBJ. Let me keep it as OBJ. So OBJ is, just understand this. I'm not able to write it properly. So OBJ is basically pointing to some address. Under that address, all the non-static variable will be loaded. How many non-static variable will there? Only one non-static variable is there, and it is ANS equal to 10. Right now, in this memory, ANS equal to 10. And here also some 32-bit is going to be loaded. Okay, first. Some random memory will be created. Inside that random memory, all the non-static fields will be loaded, all the non-static variable. Right now, ANS equal to 10 is loaded. Okay. Now here also 132-bit is loaded. Fine. Now you can see during the debug, you can see it will get initialized. During the object creation, you can see it goes to line number 5. Okay, now OBJ will not hold the value. OBJ will be pointing to some address. Okay, integer array, when you try to print numbers and all, we are getting an address now. Similarly, OBJ will be pointing to some address. This address. Inside this address, you will have the non-static variable, that is ANS equal to 10. So to access this ANS equal to 10, okay, this address is pointed by which variable right now? I want to get this ANS value. To get this ANS value, you should know this address. This address is pointed by which variable name?
OBJ.
OBJ. So that's what we are trying to use and access it. Okay, let me debug it again and show you. Listen carefully. This is an initial stage of understanding. First, you see whether you use the static variable or not, it is getting loaded. If you don't initialize, it will load with default value. Right now, you can see it is already available in memory. So we can address that static memory using the class name. So it's accessible. Now, Non-static variable is something which will be allocated in memory only when you create an object. Suppose I did not create an object means it will never load in the memory if I don't create an object. Since I have created an object, you can see it will get initialized. ANS is loaded in memory. That is actually pointed by obj. Obj is holding some address. That address is having all the non-static variable. Only one non-static variable is there. You can see it's going to come into picture. Okay. Now, let me create one more static variable. First, is it clear for you? Got some idea about it? You can, we have to start dig deep into it. Let me quickly give you an idea about it. Just listen here. I'll create one more static variable, one more non-static variable. B is equal to 20. Just leave about the value integer. B in SL key. Okay. Put a breakpoint here. Now let me debug the code. Now what will happen is all the non-static static variable will be loaded in memory. First of all, before reaching the main method, all the static variable will be loaded in memory. How many static variable we have here? 2 static variable. Got it? So A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. Whether you use it or not, that is not a matter over here. It will load in the memory. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. That is loaded. Okay. Now you can see AS and BS gets loaded. Then it will go to the main method. You can see AS equal to 10, BS equal to 10. If I want to change the value, you can change it. Anytime you can change the value of AS and BS by just using the class name dot variable name. We'll do that. I'm just printing the detail. Now, how many objects I'm creating right now? How many objects is there here? Only one object, right? So now while creating an object, all the non-static variable will be loaded in memory. What are the non-static variable we have here? ANS and BNS, right? So that gets loaded in this memory. So some random location will be there. We cannot track the location. Only your JVM knows. ANS and BNS will be loaded in memory. Okay, one object is ready right now. Now you see when I run this line number 16, all the non-static field will be loaded in memory. Now obj will be pointing to some address. That address will be holding all the non-static variable ANS and BNS. To get this ANS and BNS, you need to know this address. This address is actually we are loading in, like we are just keeping inside the obj. Obj is basically it not just a variable name. We call it as reference variable because it's just holding the reference. It's not holding the value. It's just a reference variable. Using that reference variable, you can access ANS and BNS. Okay, you don't want to worry about how many non-static variable, all these things, all will be loaded. If I have some 20 non-static variable, all will be loaded here. Okay. First, all of you understand why we need to create an object to access this. Got an idea why we need to create an object to access this? Okay, now let me create one more object. Listen carefully. Okay, let me do one thing. See, I want the value when it comes to static and non-static, don't get confused. Value and all you can change. The memory is going to be constant. Static memory, right? That is constant. I want to change the value of AS. It's possible. You can change the value of AS. Okay, that is something which you need to come out. So I can change the value of AS. You can see. Let me debug. Initially, it will be loaded with AS equal to 10, BS equal to 20. Now what I'm doing in line number 14, under the static memory, I'm trying to change the AS equal to 4,500. You can see AS will be changed to 4,500 right now. This will be changed to 4,500. That's it. Okay, the value and all you can change it anytime. Value is not constant. The memory is going to be constant. Static memory, right? When it is getting initialized, that will be constant. That static memory can be addressed by using the class name. Non-static means memory is dynamic. You can create a number of memory. Right now, I'm creating one object. I'm going to create one more object and show you. obj.bns, you can see we will be getting an output. Let me keep it as obj1, obj1, obj1. I'm going to create one more object. Okay, one more instance. You can create a number of instances, it's your wish. And it depends on the business logic. You need to understand one real-time example, which we will do it in the next class. A few real-time example is what you need to understand. But concepts is, this is the concept. So if you understand the real-time example, it will be much more clear for you. I'll tell you about it. You can try it. So I'm doing this obj2 system.out.println obj2 .bns. Now all of you listen here. How many objects I'm creating? First thing what happens is if you see this program, there will be a static memory. Under static memory, all the static variable will be loaded, which means as equal to 10, bs equal to 20 will be there. Now in it will go to the main method. In main method, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change the ASS 4500. So which this point will be from 10 to 4500, it gets changed. Okay, now updated value is 4500. Okay. BS, what will be the value of BS? Are we changing anything for BS? No, 20, correct. So it is not a change, it will be 20. Now I'm creating an object. How many objects I'm creating right now?
2.
2 objects. So right now what will happen is obj1 will be pointing to some address. One more object will be created. That object will be created in some random location. L2 I can keep. And to know the location and all, no need to worry about it as of now. Eclipse will give you some random detail with that you can understand. I'll print obj1 and also I'll print obj2. You can see the address. We'll get a different address. I'll print it and show you. Now inside this also, and this address is pointed by which variable name? Second object is pointed by which variable name? A reference variable. Got it? Obj2. That's the concept here. Obj2. Okay, 2 object is there. Now inside this object, all the non-static variable will be loaded. How many non-static variable we have? ANS and BNS, 2 non-static variable. Here also there will be like the value will be there 10 and 20, the default values. If I change it, it will change. See right now, if you see total size, here there will be 32 plus 32, 2 static variable, right? 32 plus 32. And here 2 integers, so 32 plus 32. And here for this object also there will be two integer 32 plus 32. All are independent objects. See, these two are independent objects. There is no connectivity between this object and this object. Okay, this is nothing but an instance of a class. This is nothing but an instance of a class. We just keep the class as a blueprint. This is a template. For this template, we'll create an object and we'll make use of it. Okay, just assume that we are creating a 5 employee details. To create a 5 employee details, I'll create a 5 object and I'll keep each employee details in each memory. That's what we will do. Just listen carefully. Let me put a breakpoint here and debug it and show you. Listen. So first, all the static variable will be loaded. AS, BS. I'm changing the value of static variable. AS equal to 4500. As I told you, value is not constant. Value you can change it. It's your it's your requirement. Based on the business requirement, you can change the value. But once you change it, the final value will be remained under the static memory. Okay. So the size will be same. Initially it was 32 only, it will be 32. We cannot increase the integer size, that is fixed. Now, first object I'm creating. When I create a first object, you can see a new memory will be created. Under that memory, all the non-static variable will be loaded, AS and BS. OBJ will be pointing to some address. You can see the address is ending with 08. Inside that address, you'll have ANS and BNS. That's what I'm printing it over here. One more object I'm creating. See, one more time, non-static variable will get initialized. Okay, and you can see the address, what I'm trying to print in for obj2 is ending with 75. Independent address. No connectivity between this object and this object. Both are a different instance. 2 instance is what we are creating. And when I do obj2.ans, you cannot directly tell me the value. What you need to understand is what is the value present inside the L2 location you need to address. Right now, we are not modifying any value. changes in the value. So it will be printing 10 and 20. Okay. So, but all of you got an idea where this ANS and BNS is coming from, right? This ANS and BNS, it's coming from that particular object. Got it? Okay, let me try to keep that over here for your reference. Let me, initially what you need to do is you have to try changing some location details and take it, all these things you need to do. But just an introduction to process and object concept. Okay. You're given the images over here. Now, let me do one thing. Address and all, it's not required. Address is just for our reference. It's not required. Okay. First, all of you got an idea about this, correct? Hope it is clear for you. Object. Now, why we call it as class variable? Why we call it as instance variable? Static variable, why we call it as class variable? Yeah, why we call it as class variable, static variable? Just take this into consideration. Until this class is alive, yeah, in static we cannot create an object. Yeah, see, and see the lifetime decides that class and instance basically. Until this class is alive, you can use. See, for example, you don't want main method basically. If you refer this class, it will be loaded. That's it. Until this class is alive, you can use this AS and BS. From this point to this point, you will be able to access AS and BS. Outside the main method also you can access. Until this class is alive, you can access ANS and BS. That's why we call it as class variable. What about instance variable? Till where you can access this instance variable? For example, first instance I'm creating OBJ. Till where I can access this ANS and BNS under the OBJ1. Till the object is alive. Okay, till the instance is alive, you can access it. If I change the instance, if I do obj1 equal to null, the instance is gone. You cannot access it. Okay, only it's based on the instance. Until this instance is alive, you can access the non-static variable. This instance will be gone once you come out of the main method. Right now, we are declaring inside the main method. Once you come out of the main method, the instance is gone. Once you come out of the class, all the non-static memory will be removed. Got it? Why we call it as it depends on the instance basically. These are all depends on the instance, the object you create, and this is depends on the class level. Okay, that's your class variable, a non-static variable, like instance variable. First, is it clear for everyone? We cannot access instance variable directly. No, you cannot access instance variable directly. You can see when I do this, you cannot access instance. Is your question clear? Whatever the question you ask, is it clear for you? Like instance variable, you cannot access directly. You can see here. You need to allocate a memory for it, right? How to allocate the memory? You need to do this. That memory detail you need to know. That address detail that is under obj1. Only through that address variable you can access this ANS and BNS. Okay, got it? Okay, static variable you can call using the class name. See, with the static variable is inside same class, so you can address it directly. So don't get confused. I'm telling you, don't get confused. The class, this AS is inside the same class. Okay, so you can access directly. Always you use class name dot variable name, because this might be in a different class also. Always use class name dot variable. Static variable, you have to address static memory you want to address using the class name. Non-static variable, basically you need to create an object. Only when you see, only the object knows ANS and BNS value. Only the object knows. We will not know directly. So your class will not know the value of ANS and BNS. Your class will not know basically. Only object knows. So you need to create an object. that object detail you need to store, that we have to store it somewhere. First, is it clear for you? Now, let me do one thing. obj1 equal to null I'll give. obj1 equal to null. Now, what will happen when I do obj1 equal to null? Just few things I'll quickly explain. Just 5 minutes, then we'll wind up the session. If I do obj equal to null, what will happen? Obj is pointing to some address, right? That gets disconnected. And this will be removed immediately by garbage collector. This object will be removed. Is obj pointing to any address right now? If I make it as null, you can see it runs this code. Two object will be created for sure. Two object is created. Now you can see what I'm trying to do is I'm making obj1 is already pointing to some object, but I'm telling it to point to null. Remove that reference detail. I'm just loading with null. Is obj pointing to any object right now? Is it pointing to any object right now? I have disconnected it by giving the null. Okay. Now, if you see here, null, and if I use the obj1 is not pointing to any object, so it is not actually holding the ANS and BNS, so it's null. You will get this null pointer exception. So while creating an object, you have to be careful. While moving the object from one place to another place, you have to make sure the object is not null, which we will be seeing. Okay. Let me do one thing here. Okay, let me do obj2 dot BNS equal to 5000. Now, what will be the output here? Tell me what will be the output of obj1.ans. What will be the output of obj1.ans? obj1.ans, are we modifying anything? No. Okay, under this address, let's leave this one. It's holding basically. It's holding. Okay, so holding that detail right now. Okay, fine. So you can see obj, first object I'm creating. In that object, ANS and BNS is there. Second object I'm creating, in that object also ANS and BNS is there. There is no connectivity between the ANS and BNS present in obj2, ANS and BNS present in obj1. Under which object we are changing the value of BNS? obj2. So obj1 is undisturbed. So whatever is there in that obj1, that will be listed over here, which is a equal to 10, b equal to BNS equal to 20. Whereas here ANS will be unchanged 10, and BNS, what I'm trying to do is changing it to 5000. So you cannot directly, for example, by seeing this, you cannot give the output. All of you listen carefully. By seeing line number 29, 30, you should not give the output. You have to understand what is happening in this. Okay, and finally, at this stage, what is present inside that object, you need to decide. Okay. Let me debug the code and show you. AS I'm changing. Right now, AS will be 4500, BS equal to 20. First object creating. By default, values will be loaded under this address. One more object I'm creating. Inside that address, you can see inside that address, ANS and BNS is loaded. Now I'm trying to change the BNS value under which object you need to understand. I'm trying to change the address like BNS value inside the address 2, the second location. Okay, under this you will try to change the value. You can see obj2 BNS got changed, but obj1 is unchanged. Okay, based on that only output will be given. The address what I'm printing is not required. That is for our reference. Got an idea about this, everyone? the object detail. Got it? Yeah. One final thing I'll do, just listen here. Let me create one more object. Just listen carefully and tell me the output. I'm creating one more object. Okay, let me try to print obj3. Okay, obj3 and obj3. So what will be the output here in obj3, ANS and BNS? Third object I'm creating. 3 instance I'm creating. What will the output here? So just tell me the output. What will be output here? 10 and 20, right? So one more object I'm creating, that is L3. That L3 is pointed by the variable name obj1, sorry, obj2. And inside this, ANS and BNS will be there. ANS and BNS. That's the logic here. Okay. Now, and here also 10 and 20 will be there. That's the initialization going to happen in when you create an object, and that is not changed. That's the output. Okay. Got it? First of all, the step. Let me do one thing here. Listen carefully. I'll do this. Okay. Let me do obj3 equal to obj2. Okay. Now what will happen? On line number 25, what will happen? See, till this, it's clear for you. 3 object is created. Now in line number 23, what is happening? BNS is changed to 5000. Where? Under which address we are changing it to 5000? obj2. So this is got changed to 5000. That's done. Okay, good. Now after that, what I am trying to do in line number 25. obj3 equal to obj2. What will happen right now? Right. Just tell me in line number 25 what will happen. Let's listen carefully. obj2 is pointing to one address, right? obj2 is pointing to one address. Okay, I'm asking obj3 variable also, obj3 reference variable also to point to the same address. Right now, what will happen is obj3 is there. obj3 is there. That will start pointing to the same address. That will start pointing to the same address, and this will be disconnected. Okay, got it? You can see the statement here. obj2, we are storing it in obj3. Right now, obj2 is already pointing to one address. Now, obj3 will also point to the same address. Now, obj2 or obj3 is going to point to the same address. Both the variable is pointing the same object. Got it? This statement clear for you to line number 25. Both obj2 and obj3 is pointing to the object of second one, which we created. Okay. Now, listen carefully. This is gone. This will be removed by the garbage collection. You don't want to worry about it. L3 we created, right? This object is gone. We cannot get back. This object is gone. What will be the output here? When you see the output, you have to just check the location, which object we are in right now. Either you refer obj2 or obj3, it is pointing to which object, first object or second object or third object. obj2 and obj3 is pointing to the second object. Okay, the output will be based on this object. Either you use obj2 or obj3, it's no difference. It's pointing to the same object only. Okay, that is the logic here. So these kind of operation initially you need to work on. Okay, we'll see one real-time example. You can see 3 object I'm creating. All of you listen here. With this, we'll wind up the session. It's getting late. First address, you can see 08. Okay, and second object I'm creating. Second object 75. Third object 31. Okay, now second object I'm changing it to BNS. So BNS changed in the second object. First object is unchanged, third object is unchanged. Now in line number 25, I'm giving obj3 equal to obj2. After executing this, obj2 will be pointing to 75, which is by default, and obj3 will also point to the same object. Do you see the detail here? Both obj2 and obj3 is pointing to the same object. You have to understand which object it is pointing right now. This reference variable, you have to understand. Don't think about the value. Just think about which object it is pointing. Later, you can derive the output. See, obj1, first object, obj2, obj3 is pointing to the second object one. You can see the output here. Same address only. Either you use obj1 or obj2, whatever it is, it's going to point to the second object only. Got it? Right now in memory, two objects is there. After this will be removed. Got an idea about classes and object? Clear for you what is classes and object? Non-static variable will be there, right? Non-static variable or non-static method. You have to create an object. Only when you create an object, the methods will be loaded here. Anyhow, we don't have any non-static methods in this class, so it's fine. Okay, just work on this. Some snippets. I'll share few details which you can work on. You can check it tomorrow morning in the drive link. Okay. Session notes, I'll keep it. I'll upload it in the drive link. Okay, so this is the basic concepts. If you understand the object properly, inheritance, method overriding, polymorphism concepts, abstraction, interface, all four will be simple. Okay, inheritance is nothing but when you create an object for child, it will allocate memory for parent also. That is what we will be seeing. So if you try initially, you try those who are new to Java, try to design something like this and understand it. See what object it is pointing. That's it. You should not worry about the value. ANS, BNS value, you should worry about the address. If you have to think about the address every time you create an object, you have to just think about the address, the object detail. That's it. Later, you can derive the value. Okay, fine. So that's all for today's session. Today's session is an important topic. Just inform others to watch this video, those who did not attend the session. With this basic concepts, you can easily work with Selenium. Recording link, okay, I'll inform the team to share it. Okay, I'll inform the team to share it. You'll be getting it today. Okay, that's all for today's session. If you have doubts, let me know. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. Yeah, I'll be sharing you a few details. Okay, you can check it by tomorrow morning around 8 o'clock. Before that, I'll do that. I'll upload the assignment detail. In the drive link, for the drive link, session notes, I'm already sharing it actually. Do you see the drive link? Session notes you can see at March 9. Okay, yesterday I did not. No, correct only. No. So last class was in March 9 only. No? And notes session code, I am giving it as a zip folder. Just download it, extract it, you'll be getting it. I'll update this. And next class will connect to GitHub. So it will be easy for you to refer the code. Use this drive link. Assignment detail, check it. I will be posting this. But tomorrow you check the assignment document. Document will be there. Check on the assignment document and complete it. Based on the classes and object we discussed, I'll give few scenarios to try to create it. Okay. The Java concepts, I'll upload it right now. Yeah, you can check this. Fine. So that's all for today's session. Sorry for the late. We'll connect on Monday and we'll try to inform others to go through today's recording. Fine. Next week we'll start with Selenium. Yeah, good night.